everybody, welcome to Introduction to 2D Shapes. Now 2D stands for 2 dimensions. That means that it is flat. Now often as we have to teach children, they will have some resources that have some depth and just so they can handle them, but the understanding of 2D is that it is flat. You effectively should be able to rub your hand on it. It has width and it has length, but it has no height. Now great thing about shapes is that there's lots of things that you can do at home with this in particular. So obviously the first introduction is actually beginning to learn the name of the shape. So we have a circle, a triangle, a square, a rectangle, increasingly complex, a pentagon, a hexagon, and an octagon. Now these are plus also occasionally having a semicircle or an oval are the shapes that tend to be commonly taught during Key Stage 1. Now, where we're then going to go is the fact that one of the first things we tend to teach children about the shapes is number of sides, it's their properties. So, when we're counting sides, a common error that tends to come up is that children overcount them. So, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they keep on going. Really good way to combat this issue with sides is to either hold the side and then count 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's on paper, to actually mark it or to colour it, or good old-fashioned blue tack, although you do tend to lose a lot of it by the end. So then counting the sides by putting the blue tack down. Really good way of actually spotting these shapes and becoming familiar is actually to look for them in the environment around you. So for example, wheels on a car, clocks, cereal boxes, one side of it, possibly looking for the fact that then you might see it as a book. So really good way of practicing spotting the environment. So ways to get children more familiar with 2D shapes is to play what shape could I be. So you pick a shape, you cover part of it up. This is when the children's knowledge of whether it has a curved part of the shape or whether it has a straight side is really useful. So what shape could it be? Could it be a triangle? Why? Why not? Also reminding the children that shapes can be rotated. So often I say to the children, well, could this be a circle? Well, no. Why? Because it isn't curved. Could it be a triangle? Oh, well, these edges don't go down, look like they're going to a point. What shapes could it be? Now, they might give you a list of 2, 3, 4. It's really worth having pictures to help as well. This is the point where often then I reveal that don't forget, children, that these shapes can be rotated. So, for example, you have this shape here. What shape could it be? It's actually a square rotated round. So remembering that this is still a square, this is still a rectangle, and that this is still a triangle, no matter how you turn it. The children will also start to learn that any four-sided shape is called a quadrilateral. Quad, thinking like a quad bike, 4 sides. Okay, so this is what the children will then start to learn as a quadrilateral as well. One of the next steps that children start to learn about 2D shapes is lines of symmetry. Now, symmetry means to be symmetrical. That means if I was to put a centre line or a mirror line down the middle, that not only would I have half the shape on each side of the line, but it would be the same amount and exactly the same shape as if it was a reflection. So, easy way of doing this is often to get a single mirror or to get a piece of paper, to put it through halfway and go, am I getting the same amount on either side and the same shape? Best thing is also to practice with paper, so actually folding these shapes when they're printed. And it's also really important for the children to investigate, realising that some shapes, for example like this if it's a rectangle, can be folded to find a line of symmetry in one direction. So here it is, here's my line down the centre. It has the same shape reflected on both sides and the same amount, but it can also have a horizontal line of symmetry. Some shapes they will also learn can then have diagonal lines of symmetry. So actually paper folding is a really good way of doing this, although you may need to help with some of the fold lines. Really quite interesting to see if there's any relationship if you want to challenge between, for example, the number of sides on a shape and its number of lines of symmetry. You also learn that some shapes have multiple lines of symmetry, technically infinite number of lines of symmetry. Really good way to have investigation. Patterns with shape is also a really good way to improve the children's ability to describe and to talk about number of corners, number of sides. Again, corners, vertex tends to be the fact that the children can tend to overcount. It's usually a corner on a 2D shape, but again, either hold it, draw it, or use the good old favourite of blue tack. So here we have our shape patterns. Often we start off with a simple 1-to-1, so triangle, circle, what comes next? As a challenge, you could turn the sequence around, what came before? We start to increase it by increasing the number of shapes involved, or increasing how often the shapes appear. Rectangle, circle, rectangle, what comes next? If you want increasing challenge, not only increasing the number of shapes that might be involved, up to 3 or 4, but increasing how often they appear. Or maybe looking at the fact that they are different sizes or different colours really increases their ability to have to describe the properties. Square, circle, triangle, square, circle, triangle. What comes next? Now my children might say to me square and I go, yes, but what else? This is where they'd have to describe its stripes or it's a large square. Okay, this is where it really helps them to describe their features and improve their vocabulary. Have a practice and see what you can get up to learning about 2D shapes.